Let's paint some shit. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Guys Night Gaming. We're your local gaming table. Wargaming, tabletop RPGs, mini painting, terrain building. Grab an empty chair, sit down, and subscribe. A while back, I took on the task of getting our Scout spaceship painted up for our Traveler 2nd Edition campaign. If you followed the channel a bit, you probably know painting the exterior was a task, and just the first part of this lengthy project. You can check out that video here from the tab above, or I got a link below in the description. In this video here, we're going to finish this ship with some interior painting and some personalization, little touches here and there. So let's get into it. Largely, the interior is covered with a primer coat from a rattle can. Easiest way to do it. I wanted to clean some of this up to put an even layer of primer coat across the entire inside of the ship. The first thing I needed to do was get some blue painter's tape on the ship to avoid overspray as much as possible. I didn't do the best job at this. Then I took it outside into the nice Minnesota weather and got to spraying. The main cover I sprayed with a reflective silver, and the rest got a white primer. Now, if you can, when you're priming something with like a rattle can, if you're able to prime it in a color that will speed up your paint job, do it. And that's what I did here. The ship is going to be largely white on the inside, so the white primer covered a lot of ground for me. After priming, I went in for some base coats to complete the interior. To speed this project up, I decided that everything would get a base coat, then I would apply washes and skip going into details for some of these different areas. The project was dragging on as it was. The main color on the exterior is a brown, so I wanted to match the interior some with that exterior wall, so I went with a tan color. It would later get a wash to dirty it up some and give it some life. Most of the paint that I used through this project was too thin coats from Duncan Roads. More fuel tanks sit inside the ship as well, under some floor panels here, so I went ahead and painted them red just like I did for the tanks that run along the edges of the ship. I used a couple of metallic paints inside the ship as well. The classic silver and a gold. It's almost like a bronzy rose gold color. For some of the other panels inside the ship, I wanted to continue to play off of the main color scheme on the outside with the brown. And I chose a darker brown to break apart the white paneling in the side. So for some of you that play tabletop RPGs, I want to talk about the practicality of this ship. This thing is massive. It's a big piece that if you don't have a large table really won't fit. So this project was a big one for me. It's taken me a pretty long time to get it completed, and that's why videos have been very, very slow lately. And during that time, I ended up thinking about, the practicality of the ship itself. Honestly, when I'm building stuff for tabletop RPGs, this question inevitably comes up because I'm often looking to cut time, unnecessary time, both in my builds and what will likely happen at the table when we're using these things. This ship specifically, with its size, was largely impractical for use in a campaign. Most campaigns aren't going to take place inside a ship like this. At most, a few sessions might spend the whole night in the ship, You know, the night as in at the table, 3-4 hours, whatever you're playing. So does that make sense? Does this ship waste? Is it a waste of time? Why build such a project if it doesn't get much use? To that, I would say because the ship is a fantastic piece of terrain. So it's essentially a piece of the crew now and feels like part of the team, like one of our miniatures. And also a good GM, which we are blessed with, will find a way to use this beautiful model. Something I'm looking forward to doing is ship battles on this thing. I picture us in battle, doing our rolls and our miniatures, running through the ship, terrain to repair or activate different systems. Traveler also includes things like boarding actions, which could also be used to create some great moments. So all in all, is this ship practical? In some cases, maybe, but in our case, I don't think it's practical, but we'll get some good use out of it, and it is basically a team member at this point. Now, back to the ship. Next, I worked on the interior room, so each of our miniatures have their own room in here, and they're all got a little bit of personalization inside them. I wanted to make them into something I remember from the ship from Alien, the movie, being, and without looking at the scene from the movie, I automatically picture like an off-white, kind of grungy, creamy color, like it was very well used. So that's kind of what I went with. At this point, I've glued the housing of the ship together. With the open lock system, it was really hard to work with. Because of that system, it was really loose and it would kind of fall apart. I started placing the interior room walls into the ship to map out the layout. And some of these pieces I had to actually snip little pieces off to get them to fit in snugly. You can see here that I've clipped the end tabs off to fit the walls properly. I've also done that with a couple of doors as well. This in large part is due to me gluing the housing of the ship together. You can't move it anymore, so it's pretty stiff. Trying to get this cockpit in the front here was very frustrating. I think I ended up breaking these chairs off with the cockpit like 4 times. God. After getting the interior built out, I wanted to put some cool details into the ship, so I had our GM, he made some posters for the inside of the ship that made sense, like space safety posters, first aid posters, and even some pinup models posters for one of our spicier players' rooms. I printed them out on a very, very small scale on a little inkjet printer. Cut them out with my X-Acto knife and used some Mod Podge to glue them to the walls. I really, really like how they turned out. Last step before calling this ship finished was doing some OSL on the engine parts and some of the lights on the outside. Well, I'm no expert with an airbrush. I think I've only used this a handful of times since I got it from Adepticon, but my main concern is always clogging this thing, so I like to dump everything into little plastic cups so I can stir or break up any clumps and, you know, avoid clogging if I can. And that really gives me some clarity on the consistency of the paint as well when it goes into one of these plastic cups instead of straight into the airbrush. Since I started doing this, I haven't had a clog since, and my anxiety when using the airbrush is significantly lower. This essentially wraps up this project. Finally! This ship has been hanging over my head for a long time, and I am excited to have it finished and to move on to other projects, because I have many of them. But before we wrap this up, let's check out the grand reveal. Well, that's it for the ship. Finally, it's complete. I hope you liked it. Remember, if you watch this video first, you can go back and watch the other video where I do the exterior. But I do thank you for kicking it with me if you're still here. If you're into everything tabletop and want it all in one place instead of a bunch of different channels, you're in the right spot. I'm not trying to fight no algorithm or anything. I'm doing what I love, which is everything in the hobby right here in this channel. So you'll get a little bit of everything. Subscribe so you don't miss the next session. And hey, I hope you learned something, and I hope you play something soon. Peace.